Hi guys, I'm Chris. I am the owner of Empowered Achievers, which is my career development business where I help individuals and companies to essentially help people build careers that they like, which is, I think, unfortunately, is something that comes as an afterthought for a lot of women. And my question for you is, so you talked a little bit about having men or male mentors and how important that is. There's tons of articles, and I really believe with them, about how women need sponsorship, not mentorship. So actually, men who give them opportunities. Yep. Could you share an experience with us, or how you've seen within business men who provide those opportunities for women to actually move up when maybe the women might not ask for it themselves?
Yeah, so I think that's an amazing point too, because there is a big difference between mentorship and sponsorship. Within the business that a woman may find themselves in, you need sponsorship. You need somebody that's going to be your advocate, somebody that will promote you, that will give you opportunities, that will give you that stretch assignment, that will give you that chance. And they will also talk to other people about you in good ways. Okay, sponsors are strong advocates for you. They're not just mentoring you on the side and saying, okay, Patty, here's what you need to be doing about this or that. They're actually out there in front for you. They are helping you break through those walls. So finding people, and again, I'd say look for managers, they're in corporate America. If you go to a large company, you will find that really smart, entrepreneurial, very driven people will all seek out certain managers. There will be some people that have a reputation in a company as being somebody that is really an advocate, a people developer, somebody that you can learn from. So look for those people too. And don't work for someone. The other thing I will tell everyone is life is short. Do not work for somebody that will not do that for you. If you're working for somebody that doesn't believe in you, don't work for them, because you will not be your best self working for someone that doesn't believe in you. And you deserve that. So if you've got somebody that's not an advocate and somebody that doesn't believe in your potential and your capability and all of those things, find a different boss.
My name's Monica. I write the award-winning blog, mountainmonica.com. My question for you is, when you look back over your life and career, can you pinpoint any certain times where there was a choice you made or a realization you had that really changed the trajectory of your life? It looks like you've already got an answer for that.
Yeah, it happened kind of mid-career, actually, where I was working as head of HR in a company in Virginia. I've kind of lived all over the country. And there was a situation that occurred where it came down to values, okay, where I had to make a decision about my values or my job. And I went with values after talking to my dad, and never regretted it. I didn't get fired. I just quit my job the next day, and without another job, and without, my husband's like, "You're quitting?" I was like, "Yep, have to quit." So, and it changed. It truly changed who I was. It changed. It became crystal clear for me what was important. It made it super critical who I worked for, and understanding who the leadership of any company was and what we stood for and how we operated. So it changed the choices that I made in terms of where I work, and kept me, incredibly grounded ever since then. It was a tough night.
I bet.
I can tell you that.
But the really good, insightful change comes when it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, you're probably like, thank goodness I was put in that position so that I could make this decision to know who I am, and know what I want, and know how I want to lead.
Well, but it was also true, like within HR, there's a code of ethics that you have where you can't violate certain things. Yeah. So this actually meant that I actually violated that, because my value system was such that I couldn't do that. So anyway, it's a long story, and I'd tell it to somebody over a glass of wine sometime. But it changed me. So So, and I think all of us have those opportunities where we have crucible moments, moments that actually define the direction that we take in our lives and how we lead and how we live.
Good morning. Thank you both. I'm Brianna with Snooze and Erie and represent all of our people there. Question for you would be that it sounds like you obviously have great hiring skills as well as retention for all of your people at SendGrid. And if you could explain the one reason why you feel like people work for SendGrid or choose SendGrid through the interview process, and then maybe why you think you can retain them the best, that would be awesome.
That's a great question. So I think pretty unanimously people join because of culture. I mean, there's a lot of good companies out there, and when I do a thing with every new hire group, I talk with them and try and get to know them a little bit, and I ask them, why'd you join? And there's always like, oh, it's growth, it's this, but everybody mentions culture. And we interview hard for it so they kind of know what they're getting themselves into. There's very few surprises. So I think again, that's why people join. I also, again, believe that we like working in companies that grow. If a company's a growth story, a lot more exciting than if you're stagnating. So that's not as much fun. Or if you're declining, that's terrible. So I don't want that to happen. So in general, I think those are the two reasons. Yeah. I also think our CEO is a real attractant for folks here. So I've got some nods from people know he cares. And so I think and he'll actually talk to some of the recruits that we have. Like if we're not sure they're gonna join or whatever, he'll pick up the phone and actually call people and talk with them.
Hi, good morning. I'm Elaine Marino. I own Equally. It's a diversity and inclusion, workshops, training, consulting. I'm basically trying to fix the diversity and inclusion problem inside tech, and it has expanded to finance and law and all sorts of things. But my question is, and you touched on it, and it really struck something, which is at the top, right? That very few women make it there, and the statistics are quite astounding. Yeah. We, in the Western world, I've never been more educated as women than we are in this moment, and yet the trajectory is that we don't get past like senior manager. And so my question is, do you feel a responsibility, and maybe your counterpart who's also a director feel a responsibility to try to bring more women and minorities to the boardroom, and how would you go about doing that if you did feel responsible?
So not just the workforce, but to the boardroom.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say I am blessed to have a leadership team that believes passionately that a diverse company is a better company. When Samir was hiring the last two executives on the team, he said, they will be women and they will be amazing. I mean, he literally was like, it's not because they're women that I'm hiring them. I'm hiring them because these are going to be amazing, but I'm going to look until I find amazing women, because we need a diverse executive team. So he was very intentional about that. As we've been building out our board, we've been very intentional about diversity and finding women and other underrepresented professionals to be part of our board. So I'm lucky to work in an environment where tone at the top says this is critically important. I've also worked in organizations where that was not the case, where it's a lot harder. And then that's where, so I have a personal responsibility. Leander and I both feel a sense of responsibility to the women of SendGrid in general. I feel a responsibility to everyone here, but I also know it can be harder for women. So I do feel that sense of responsibility to help advocate for women, to provide opportunities for them, to coach, to provide sponsorship and mentorship for women that are looking for that. I know Leander feels exactly the same way. So I feel that sense of responsibility. I don't have to be that squeaky voice that says we have to do this at the executive level or the board level, because we've already got that infused in our culture. In an environment where I didn't have that, if you don't have the support at the top, it's really, really hard to influence and make that change. I talked about it at the board level. I talked about it at the executive level. I was the only woman on the exec team. Had a couple of women at the VP level, but no women in the C level. So it was hard. It's a much more difficult conversation if you don't have that buy-in that diversity is critically important to your business. If it doesn't become a business imperative, it's hard to win that argument.
Do you think you're ever able to convince the leadership? Or is it ingrained in them? Or are there, do you know what I mean? Like, sounds like
I have been successful in that, but it's all about making the business case.
Yeah.
So it's really about going to the data and saying, which companies are more successful than others? Which companies are truly built to last? And what's the makeup of those companies? Do they care about these things? Yes, they do. Why is your business stronger? Oh, because your customers are a diverse group of people out there that all have a different view of you, and how do you understand that lens and have people that understand that? So, making the business case and really using data to support that is where I've gone every time.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nikki Hanna. I'm the co-founder of Eclectic Activation. We are an experiential marketing company based here in Denver, and we plan events and creative experiences for brands looking to target their end target consumer. I have a question in regards to, as you're an entrepreneur and you're starting up, you wear many hats. So I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business developer, I'm HR, I'm a little bit of everything. And as the company is growing, you're looking to bring on somebody new, and you're going to invest a lot in that person. And I may not know what that position may entail quite yet, but it's, I know that I need somebody within this role, and maybe they may wear many hats too. So are there resources out there where, I don't have any protocols in place, I don't have an HR handbook, I don't know the job descriptions really truly. So are there resources in starting to build those new positions? And once that person is, on board, how do you then pivot or mold and create a structure in place to moving forward so that you can have that really good foundation that you're starting as you're starting to build a team?
That's a great question. There's a lot in that question too. So first of all, there are resources out there. There's the Society for Human Resource Management. There's which it's fairly inexpensive to join, but they have free resources out there with white papers and information. World at Work is another one that can help. One thing you were talking about is when you're hiring people that, their job's kind of squishy. One thing I would advise you to do is hire people that can really handle ambiguity. Because there are a lot of folks that come in and they need their job to be their job, and as you're hiring people in a phase where we're not really sure how this is, what all you're going to be doing, you want people that are really comfortable with that. So you're going to want to figure out interview questions that will get you there. There's a ton of resources. If you just Google great interviewing questions, you can find good things there that can help you sort of hone in on what you might want. In terms of scaling, and any of you can call me. I'm serious. I'm happy. Meet some other HR people in the community. Talk with folks that can help you, because most of us are really willing to have conversations and help you with anything that you've got there. So consider me a resource. Nice. In terms of scaling.
I want to ring a bell whenever that happens.
The other thing too is when you're thinking about scaling and creating structure and all of those things, I believe org structure should follow your business processes. So you kind of think about, how does work flow? How do we serve our customers? What are the things and then how do you create structure that actually is intuitive for that isn't crazy stuff, because sometimes you're why is that person over here doing this? And and as you grow, if you're not careful about that, you can end up with duplicative roles. You can have people that they're in a group that no one even understands why they're there. As SendGrid's grown, we keep looking at that from our own org structure. So try and always keep in mind the customer experience and the process that it takes to develop your product and serve your customer, and then make certain your org is aligned with that in a way that gives you kind of smooth flow. And then the last piece of advice I would give is make certain that you are grounded in the values of your organization, because that's going to inform a ton of what you do. And the one thing that was good that SendGrid did, and I don't think we did it intentionally or anything, but we have values that scale. like happy, hungry, humble, and honest, those stand the test of time. Many younger companies will, newly formed companies, you'll have values that are about, that moment in time. And so then when you get to a certain scale, some of those values can start breaking. Like one company I was with, one of their values was go fast. And that was good to a certain point, and then everybody was tripping over themselves, and you were going fast and not being as successful as you needed to be. So that was a value that didn't stand the test of time. So think about the values that you put in place, because if not, then you have to revisit your values, which impacts the people that you hire and how all that fits together. So really think deeply about, is this something that as the organization scales will stand the test of time and be right and help us win? Because that's what our values should do. They should be things that help us win, help us be a better business, help us be successful at what we do. So think deeply about those as you think about what will scale and what won't.
I like that. We've heard that a lot. Stay true to yourself, your values, why you're doing what you're doing, and why you want to help others.
Yeah.
That was great. Patty, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so
just
fun.
truly wonderful. Thank you.